I spent 3 pitch-black nights at a radio station with 4 rules that haunt me forever. The air was thick with tension as Jake stepped into the old radio station, its creaky doors groaning like ghosts awakening from slumber. It was a place where time seemed frozen, a shell of faded glory wrapped in layers of dust and darkness. The broken neon sign flickered erratically, casting eerie shadows that danced on the walls, illuminating the cryptic graffiti left by those who dared to tread into this forgotten world. 5 stories below ground level, the basement was deemed cursed by locals, a place where secrets twisted like smoke in the air, and each night, it held its breath, waiting for something unspeakable to unfold. As he glanced at the unsettling clock on the wall, its tick was slow and mocking, filling the silence with a rhythm of dread. But it was the 4 rules that really sent shivers down his spine. The station's last DJ had scribbled them in frantic handwriting, instructions meant to ward off the uninvited and unlucky. Rule number 1. Never turn off the lights. Every bulb flickered in weak defiance, casting a dim glow that felt more like a warning than a comfort. Rule number 2. Don't touch the vinyl. Legend had it that the records trapped voices from the past, whispers of those who had come before. Rule number 3. Stay away from the windows. Strange black shapes were said to watch with eyes that knew too much, seeing into the very depths of the fearful heart. And finally, rule number 4. Never, ever, speak the name of the dead DJ, a caution cloaked in dread that sent a chill through Jake, tightening his chest like a vice. With the shadows growing darker, he heard the distinct crackling of the radio, filling the air, a chilling mix of static and distant voices. A chill tingled along his spine. The station was awakening. Something deep inside him urged him to escape, to break free from this nightmare. But his curiosity anchored him, paralyzing him in place. What awaited him in those pitch-black nights? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button. It really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Suddenly, a thud echoed from behind him, breaking the spell of silence. Jake whipped around, heart racing like a runaway train. The air felt electrified, thick with foreboding. Something wasn't right. Was it the shadows playing tricks, or was there truly something lurking in the corners of the room? Sweat trickled down his back, and his breath came quick and shallow. The station felt alive, as if it held its breath, waiting for him to decide would he heed the rules or uncover the dark secrets that lay beneath the surface. And just as he turned back to face the dimly lit studio, the radio speakers crackled louder, sending a jolt of fear coursing through him. It was then he realized he was no longer alone. What was waiting for him in the dark? The shadows around Jake shifted and warped, bending into sinister shapes designed to terrify the mind. He felt their weight pressing on him, like 1,000 unseen eyes observing his every move. The radio hissed again, exuding a cacophony of static punctuated by faint whispers, seductive yet sinister, beckoning from the depths of his most paranoid nightmares. Stay away from the windows, he murmured to himself, but a part of him was already drawn to them. The whispers intensified, pouring into the room like a thick fog, and he swallowed hard, resisting the urge to creep closer. His instincts screamed at him to run, but instead, he stepped tentatively toward the flickering glass panes. With each step, he recalled the horror stories that enveloped this place, how the last DJ went mad, his sanity slipping away like sand through his fingers. The others had come too, lured by the same tantalizing mystery Jake felt creeping under his skin. None had emerged unscathed. A surge of dread twisted in his stomach, but he pressed on, each breath echoing louder in the oppressive silence. Suddenly, the static broke, and a voice surfaced, haunting and familiar. "Jake, help me," it whispered, weaving through his thoughts like a tendril of smoke. His name hung in the air, lingering like an uninvited guest. No, it couldn't be. He pressed his palms against the cool glass, heart pounding, searching the inky blackness outside. The world beyond was a void, an abyss peering back at him. But he couldn't look away that a figure emerged from the darkness against the night, backlit by an unseen source. Dark and hazy, it twisted and warped, a grotesque caricature of a person. He could barely see, but he felt the prickling energy of something watching him. He jerked back, his muscles tense, every rule screaming in his head, but curiosity hooked him firmly in place. Then the voice called out again, desperate. You must break the silence. It echoed louder, dripping with an urgency that clawed at Jake's gut. An icy shiver coursed through him, the hairs on his arms standing tall. The rules, the warnings, they were designed to protect him. But this was something deeper, something far more sinister than he ever imagined. Was the spirit trapped here, or was it a malevolent force waiting to consume him? The air thickened with uncertainty and fear. What if speaking meant unleashing something terrible? In a split second, he made an uneasy choice. What do you want? He whispered to the shadows, heart racing as silence enveloped him once again, the static fading to an ominous stillness. For an eternity, he could only hear the pounding of his own heartbeat, rhythm adhering to the weight of his fear. Then, the station shuddered as if it were alive. The lights flickered violently, and the whispers transformed into a chaotic roar. The radio blared with unearthly anguish, shattering the tranquility like glass. And just as quickly, everything went quiet. He held his breath, the room around him cloaked in a deafening void. Something was coming. Jake could sense it in the very marrow of his bones, an impending storm brewing. Will he thrive against the rules, or succumb to the shadows threatening to consume him? Just then, the ground trembled beneath him, and he realized he was not abandoned at all. Something was stirring below, something hungry. What would happen when the darkness finally breathed its first breath? Jake's heart thundered in his chest as the silence swallowed him whole. It felt like eternity stretched between breaths, each one heavier than the last. He knew he had stirred it, whatever it was lurking just beyond the threshold of reason. It was awake now, its presence pulsing in the shadows, hungry as ever. Then, a low growl rumbling beneath the floorboards made the hairs on the back of his neck stand straight. He stepped back instinctively, his mind racing. It had to be a trick of his imagination, right? No, it felt too real. The vibrations shot through him like jolts of electricity, mixing fear and adrenaline as he fought the urge to flee. What do you want? Echoed in his mind, a phrase he had uttered so timidly before. The question didn't mean much now. It lingered in the air like stale smoke, choking him. The shadows seemed to respond, twisting and curling as if forming an answer, teasing him with its silence. Without warning, the radio erupted again, the harsh crackling breaking the thick atmosphere. Jake, can you hear me? The voice was clearer this time, insistent. It felt like an urgent command that vibrated within his very bones. Panic seized him. Turn it off. He yelled at the silence, but it was futile. Something deep within him yearned to listen, to decipher the message hidden in the chaos. Torn between terror and the magnetic pull of curiosity, Jake slowly approached the radio, holding his breath as if that would stave off the looming dread. As he leaned forward, the lights began to flicker violently again. He flinched, disoriented. Shadows danced across the walls, contorting into familiar faces from the past, his friends, his family, all those who had warned him to stay away from this cursed place. The figures swirled, their mouths moving in a silent scream, eyes wide with unspoken warnings. Their haunting visages were a stark reminder of the fate that could befall him. No, Jake shouted, shaking his head violently as if that would shatter the vision. But they kept pouring from the walls, churning in a tempest of horror, drowning him in despair. He had to focus. He had to break free from this nightmare. He grabbed the radio, fingers trembling as he cranked the knob, desperately trying to tune into something, anything that could ground him. Get out! Get out! The voices urged, overlapping in a terrifying chorus. In that moment, an overwhelming surge of rage coursed through him. This was not his life. Not now, not like this. I want to let you take me, he screamed, voice cracking, melting into the cacophony. With a fierce determination, he slammed the power switch, plunging the room into darkness. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. The oppressive weight felt lighter. Maybe he had won then. A rumble shook the very foundation, louder and angrier than before. The walls seemed to pulse, vibrating with malice. Jake's pulse quickened. He turned slowly, dreading what he might find, every instinct screaming to look away. The darkness parted just enough for him to see it a skeletal hand, clawing its way out of the floor, dragging something heavy and disturbing behind it. Jake's breath caught in his throat. This was it. Was this the creature holding the voices captive? Was it asking for help, or simply wanting to drag him to the hell below? Jake took a step back, tears prickling at the corners of his vision. He had to make a choice, but the moment hung heavy in the air, suffocating him under its weight. Finally, he whispered hoarsely, "What do you want from me?" As if in answer, the tendril of darkness lunged forward, and with it, the radio crackled to life once more. You must choose. The shadows closed in, thick and oppressive. Would he embrace the darkness, or find a way to escape its grasp? Jake's heart raced as he prepared to meet whatever fate awaited him, not sure if he was ready for the truth that lurked beneath the surface. What lay ahead, salvation or irrevocable doom? Just then, a distant laughter echoed through the station, sinister and mocking. The true nightmare had only just begun. The skeletal hand hovered, trembling above the ground, its fingers curling menacingly as more darkness seeped from the gaping hole. Jake could hardly breathe. He felt trapped in a nightmare where every escape route had vanished. "Make it stop," he shouted, although he knew deep down that his voice was merely a whisper against the howling void. With a mind racing between panic and dread, he glanced back at the flickering radio. It hummed like a beast, live and alive, demanding his attention. The way it crackled was like claws on glass, a sound that threatened to cut through his sanity. "You must choose," echoed again, growing louder, drowning out the laughter that reverberated through the chamber. Jake's instincts screamed for him to flee, but the cold grip of fear held him fast. He couldn't leave. Something about this place rooted him to the spot. Was it the souls of the lost? Or perhaps the lure of answers he desperately sought? Shadows whipped around him, drawing nearer with the taunting laughter still echoing in that moment. He remembered the stories, the impossibility of the station, the rumors of those who had vanished after spending nights beneath its roof. They had been warned. Had he been foolish to ignore those warnings? The skeletal hand tore through the last barrier of the floor, revealing a mass of twisted, gnarled forms, slithering and curling with intention. Jake could almost see faces within the swirling confusion, a cacophony of emotions, each one marking the agony of past visitors. It wasn't just darkness, this was something far more cunning and predatory. "Choose," the radio rasped again. The word reverberated in his skull. Choose what? He could feel its weight. His answer would steal something vital from him. But what? One face in the crowd of shadows caught his eye, familiar, pleading. A chill washed over him. It was his little sister, Mia, a ghost trapped and forever echoing his failures. The guilt settled like ice in his veins. If this was about her, would he have the courage to save her, even from himself? The shadows began to laugh again, echoing the twisted amusement that licked at his skin. Each chuckle dug deeper, flaying his insides, exposing the fragility of his resolve. "Stop!" Jake yelled, entirely overcome with emotion. He spun around, hands trembling at his sides. He was trapped in a web he couldn't unravel. "Just tell me how to help her." Suddenly, the radio let out a wrenching hiss, the sound piercing through the air like a knife. "You may not like the price," it warned, voice dripping with a sinister undertone. He felt the weight of that statement hanging over him, like a storm threatening to break. Then, a flicker of light emerged from nowhere, blinding in its intensity. Jake squinted through the shadows as the light coalesced into a shape, forming a doorway, a window into another realm. It shimmered, inviting yet foreboding. It offered escape. It looked like salvation. But as he hesitated, the laughter grew louder. Their mocking jeers wrapped around him like chains, clutching his heart in icy fingers. "Choose, Jake. Save her or save yourself." The choice felt impossibly heavy, a crushing weight that could shatter him completely. Desperation clawed at his throat as he realized that even if he could select one, could he really face the peril of losing the other? Jake's pulse quickened, sweat beading on his brow, every instinct firing off alarms. He understood now this was a trap too intricate to escape. As he took a step toward the light, the skeletal hand lunged, wrapping around his ankle with a grip like iron. Don't fight it. The radio shrieked, the shadows swirling furiously. Jake's mouth went dry as panic flooded his senses. He couldn't let go, not now. But how could he win a battle against shadows and regret? As the darkness began to pull him under, he knew in that terrifying moment he had to make a choice before the laughter consumed him whole. The air thickened with anticipation. What awaited him in the light? And what darkness would he have to face if he chose to stay? Desperation clawed at him as he braced himself for what was about to be unleashed. Jake's heart raced as the shadows coiled tighter around him, the skeletal hand stronger than he could have imagined. Its grip felt alive, pulling him into a realm of unfathomable dread. Panic surged within him, a raw and electrifying fear he had never experienced before. The darkness roared, a chilling wind that shrieked like a banshee, drowning out his thoughts and desires. The laughter crescendoed, a choir of monstrous delight, and he could feel the phantoms feasting on his inner turmoil. "Choose, Jake," they cried, as if his indecision was the sweetest nectar to their twisted existence. He lunged toward the blinding light, but the skeletal hand yanked him back. His mind screamed for release, yet his body was weighed down by the very choice he craved to escape. "Is she worth it?" The radio's voice hissed, dripping with malice. It tore at him, dredging up all the guilt and shame he had buried deep within. He could hear Mia's laughter, a sound that once filled him with joy but now twisted his heart with longing and loss. Would he gamble everything for a chance to rescue her? "I'm coming for you, Mia." The words burst from him, fueled by desperation. With newfound determination, he twisted to free himself from the skeletal grip. It was relentless, binding him, but he surged against it. He recalled the warmth of her small hand in his, the way her eyes sparkled with innocence, and the love that flooded every moment they had shared. In the struggle, the shadows momentarily retreated, almost as if surprised by his resolve. For a fleeting instant, hope flickered within him. The light pulsed with high energy, urging him to step closer. He could feel its warmth seep into his skin, a counter to the icy grip. Maybe there was a way to save her, perhaps the light held the secret. But the laughter returned, mocking him. "You will make a choice, Jake. But the cost will be steep." With every word, dread seeped back into his veins. The weight of the options bore down on him. Save Mia and lose himself, or flee to preserve his own life, potentially leaving her behind forever. The decision felt like a blade at his throat. Then, with a sudden ferocity, he grasped at the radio. "You think you can manipulate me? I want to be your pawn." A surge of anger coursed through him, igniting a flame of defiance. "Defiance costs more than you know," it crackled ominously. The world shifted around him, the light flashing as if responding to his boldness. The shadows stirred, agitated, slathering him with creeping dread. "Choose," they screeched. "Are you ready to take the plunge?" The hand loosened its grip ever so slightly, giving him a momentary chance. Was it an invitation to escape or a cruel trick? Jake's eyes darted back to the flickering light, offering the hope of salvation. He felt the weight of his sister's gaze, urging him closer. "Mia, I want to leave you," he shouted, desperation building within his chest, rising like a tide ready to crash. Just as he lunged again toward the light, the shadows surged back, swallowing him in a haze of darkness. The laughter was deafening, mingling with Mia's voice, growing fainter. Suddenly, the ground beneath him began to tremble violently, the shadows writhing in a tempest of chaos. Jake felt a jolt as he slipped through the light, a rush like being thrown into the depths of icy water. The brightness enveloped him, pulling him in different directions, twisting his senses. Was he still in control? The darkness whispered, slithering over him like a second skin, threatening to suffocate the tiny spark of hope that had ignited within. With one violent breath, he landed on solid ground, gasping for air. But this was not Mia's warm world. This was a place drenched in shadows. The air was thick, heavy with despair. A faint glow illuminated the area. It flickered uncertainly, like a candle fighting against the darkness. He looked around. Everything felt wrong, alien. Crumpled newspapers littered the floor, the headlines barely visible. Disappearance in the dark and mysterious sounds haunting the town. Was this some twisted reflection of the life he once knew? Chills raced down his spine as he picked up a nearby paper. realizing with horror these stories could easily be about him and Mia. "Welcome to the Midnight Station," a voice echoed, deep and resonant. It was disembodied, yet intimately familiar. Jake spun around, but saw no one. "You've crossed over to play, just like they always do. Who are you?" Jake shouted, fear clenching at his throat. "We're Mia. Eager, aren't we?" The voice chuckled, sent shivers through him, pulsating through the very air. "Time ticks differently here. You must learn the rules." "Rules?" he exclaimed, heart pounding. "What rules?" "First," it began, each word dripping with glee, "you must listen. The voices guide the lost. Second, you cannot resist the game. Every choice echoes, breaking all that is and was. Once you play, you cannot return to what you left behind." The laughter that followed chilled him to the bone. "Third," the voice continued, "you must sacrifice something dear, a memory, a truth to grasp the choices that lie ahead." Each statement felt like a vice tightening around his chest. "And the last?" Jake dared to ask. "The last is simple. You can never trust the light. It promises solace, but it delights in deceit." Panic rose, bubbling in his throat. Every fiber in him screamed for Mia, to tear through the plains of this twisted reality to find her. "No, I want to accept this. It's too late," it taunted. "You chose to plunge. Now play." Suddenly, a surge of shadowy masses swirled at the edges. They began to take shape, forming sickening figures of people with hollowed eyes, stretching their arms toward him as if begging for release. He recognized faces: the lost, the damned. A flash of Mia's laughter echoed, but it was transformed, twisted into a sound of pure distress that bore down like a hammer on his heart. "Help!" it whispered, layered through with the cries of countless others, resonating with Jake's soul. "This is what you brought upon yourself." The voice coiled behind him like smoke. "Now, decide for them, or let them suffer." Jake's chest tightened as a wave of despair crashed over him. The shadows expectantly leaned in, awaiting his choice. He stepped back, muscles quaking, mind racing. Could he truly save Mia? Did he have the strength to make this sacrifice? The turmoil inside him waged an all-out war. Time was slipping through his fingers as the shadows whispered death's sweet promises. "Choose," they urged, their voices an agonizing chorus dancing in his mind. Jake's heart thudded, drowning out the world. Tears pricked at his eyes. What would it cost? His hope, his sanity, his sister? As the reality of the weight on his shoulders pressed down, he felt something flicker inside. Was fighting even an option? If he took the light, could he save Mia? Or would he dim forever in the darkness, a mere ghost among the shadows that clawed at his thoughts? "Enough," he bellowed, clenching fists at his side. "I choose." But even before he could finish, the shadowy masses surged forward, consuming him in a whirlwind of despair and uncertainty. What lay ahead? Freedom, sacrifice, or damnation? As he was swept into the tempest, he understood. Choice is never just a word. It is a game played with life and death. And now, he was a player with everything to lose. Could he brave the perils within this midnight realm to uncover the truth about Mia? Or would he become another haunting echo, lost in the darkness forever? The shadows swallowed him whole, yanking at his limbs with a merciless grip. Panic surged through Jake as he was thrust deeper into this disorienting limbo. He squeezed his eyes shut, desperate for clarity, for some semblance of his sister. The pull of despair was unrelenting. The atmosphere crackled with a tingling energy, a potent mix of hopelessness and dread. Then, a voice sliced through the chaos, smooth and alluring. "Ah, there you are," it sang, like a siren pulling him closer. "Welcome to your first choice." Jake's heart raced. "What do you want from me?" "Want?" It chuckled, teasing, almost playful. "I don't want anything, dear Jake. You're the one who sought me out. Remember? You called for her." A wave of nausea crashed over him. Hadn't he come here to save Mia? First, a lesson. A game plays best when you know its stakes, the voice cooed, wrapping around him like silk. But its shiny comfort felt cold and foreboding. Let us start with a taste. Suddenly, visions broke through the shadows, like snapshots flashing before his eyes. Mia walking alone in the park, laughing with friends, her eyes sparkling like stars. But with each flicker, the memories dimmed, twisted into something grotesque. Mia screamed, trapped in chains of darkness, her face marked by terror. Stop it! Stop! Jake shouted, dread pooling in his stomach. I want to do this. The laughter echoed, ricocheting off the walls of this dark void. Oh, Jake, it's not about what you want. It's about what you can bear. Choose to save her, or lose the last memory you hold dear. The shadows thickened, twisting like tendrils, reaching out toward him, urging toward the sacrifice. The question hung in the air, heavy with guilt. What would he give up? It felt like drowning. Jake's throat constricted. Scenes from his life bled together, warm laughter, quiet moments of solitude, fights with Mia that were now hollow, and the images of her suffering urged him to decide quickly. Time is ticking, the voice crooned, taunting him between breaths. How long will you let her suffer in this dark? The clock runs faster here. Will it be your last good day, or her safety? Suddenly, flashes of Jake alone dropped into his mind: the day he learned to ride a bike, the time he discovered Mia's secret world of art, her smile when she'd help him through life's chaos. With each memory, a deep-seated connection surfaced, memories of love forged through hardship. Choose, choose, the shadows sang, their chaotic chorus merging in a tight knot of fear. What if this was a trick? What if he saved Mia but lost himself? But the unrelenting pull of her terrified face in the shadows struck a jagged chord in his heart. I have to save her, I will never forget. He steeled himself, ready to lay it all on the line. A piercing scream erupted from the suffocating darkness around him, shaking him to the core. Do it. Sacrifice your memory and find her. Or remain forever in this swirling void, just another shadow among the damned. No, Jake roared. He wouldn't let the light's facade dictate his fate. But deep down, he felt the weight of the decision pressing down, squeezing every ounce of hope. What if the cost was too much to bear? The darkness tightened, pulling taut around him like a noose. With trembling fingers, he reached toward the chaotic light, the last glimmer of his sister's laughter. And then, everything went black. What awaited him in this abyss of loss and sacrifice? Could he confront the shadows without losing what mattered most? And in that moment of uncertainty, another voice beckoned, a whisper woven through the darkness, echoing with a promise. Jake, are you ready to uncover the truth? The profound blackness wrapped around Jake like a heavy blanket. He could feel it pressing against his skin, a suffocating hug that blocked out every shred of reality. Was this what it felt like to lose oneself? The silent void mocked him, the last nuances of memory slipping through his fingers as he waited for the other shoe to drop. Where are you? He breathed, his voice barely a whisper. The fear, sharp and ever-present, coiled in his gut, making every word feel heavier, weighted with desperation. Patience, dear Jake, the voice returned, softer this time, yet sinister as if it were a predator playing with its prey. Your journey has only just begun. The truth isn't always easy to swallow. A chill crept down his spine, every instinct screaming at him to push back against the shadows. But instead, they spun his world. He felt like a marionette, his strings pulled by unseen hands. Then, a tremor in the air seemed to ripple outward, breaking the oppressive silence. Suddenly, a light ignited in the distance, a small, flickering flame fighting valiantly against the encroaching dark. It beckoned him, a beacon in this twisted nightmare. Jake felt a surge of urgency flood his veins. Was it the way out? Was it Mia? He plunged forward, stumbling toward the glow. As he moved, a chorus of whispers surged around him, each voice melding indistinguishably into a cacophony of warnings, cries of despair, and lost hopes. Memories twisted further, the faces of his loved ones flickering like ghosts. Who were they now? Were they trapped here too? Focus. You can't lose sight of what matters, he murmured, grinding his teeth as determination fueled his steps. The brightness grew stronger, illuminating the path ahead fully. In the center, he saw an old-fashioned radio, weathered and cracked, but distinctively alive, humming with static energy. The knobs turned lazily, and he felt an inexplicable connection pulling him closer. Welcome back to the airwaves, the voice echoed, now echoing from the radio. It was seductive like the first rays of dawn. You have a choice to make, but first, let me present your options. You can leave, returning to your safe, ordinary life, but another's hourglass will empty for you. Or, you can embrace the shadows. Equipment will be your guide, unlocking what others only dream. but consume as you might, the cost of that knowledge will unravel a secret you never wanted to hold. What do you mean? Jake's heart raced in his chest. Every word was sharpened with peril. That which fuels desire often feeds the darkness. It continued, the static merging with harmful laughter. Will you be brave enough to wield both? Shivers danced up his spine. This was not merely a choice. It was a ground-shaking decision. The lights dimmed, threatening to swallow him in despair. The static buzzed louder, encasing him in confusion. Every breath felt heavy with consequences. The echoes of Mia's laughter drifted back into shadow, replacing the vision of the radio, a taunt reminding him of everything he stood to lose. Choose wisely, Jake, the voice warned, now thick with expectation. Time is not your ally here. Remember, the truth waits for no one. He hesitated, peering into the rough wood of the radio. With a shaky hand, he reached out. Would it be a weapon or a lifeline? Did he dare tap into the darkness to understand the truth? Tension electrified the air. Each heartbeat thudded like thunder in his ears. What truth awaited him beyond the flickering light? And at what cost? As Jake grasped the knob, a blinding burst of clarity exploded in his mind, igniting everything he thought he knew. Are you ready for the journey that lies ahead? The voice rang out, clear and powerful. It was both promise and threat, a prelude to the storm. In that moment, Jake realized that whatever decision he made would set off a chain of events he could never take back. Can you handle the consequences? And just as he flicked the switch, an ominous crackle surged through the air. Darkness enveloped him once more, threatening to consume him, but what lay on the other side? A truth, long buried, waiting to surface? Or worse, the haunting unknown? A jolt of energy shot through Jake as he turned the knob, his heart racing. The crackle of static buzzed aggressively, like a swarm of angry bees. It was a sound he felt deep in his bones, reverberating through the void. The darkness clung to him, yet it felt different now, more alive, as if it were both watching and waiting. The flickering light beside the radio pulsed like a heartbeat, casting strange shadows that danced across his surroundings. Suddenly, a cacophony of voices erupted from the radio. They were overlapping and frantic, weaving in and out, each a fragment of stories, cries for help, and even laughter. His mind struggled to pick out individual threads of meaning. What were they trying to tell him? Listen closely. The voice from the radio broke through the chaos, now biting and urgent. You must understand, Jake. There are shadows here that you do not recognize. They hold your past, but they also hold your future. Visions flashed before his eyes, great waves crashing on a shore where he and Mia once sat, sunsets coloring the sky as they laughed together. It flickered and faded, replaced by darkness spilling forth, swallowing everything. Stop, he yelled, desperation driving his voice as he pressed his palms against his ears. Enough. The radio static hissed, then fell silent. An eerie calm surrounded him, but the tension in the air thickened, almost tangible as it surrounded him like fog. You cannot escape who you are, the voice whispered, softer now, yet still laced with menace. Every choice you make will have its consequences. Will you run from the truth, or face it head-on? Remember, Jake, the choice is yours to embrace or reject. His throat tightened. Should he choose the other life, letting another pay the price? Or plunge into the abyss of knowledge that could ruin him? Just when he thought he might drown in indecision, the radio sparked back to life. Let me show you something, it chirped, the static now morphing into a hypnotic pattern. The shadowy shapes around him started to dissolve, revealing an abandoned radio station. Dust motes floated lazily in the air, caught in beams of tenuous light that trickled through cracked windows. It was all too familiar, a place he visited with Mia in happier times, now entirely forlorn. His breath hitched. This is where we found that last recording. A knot twisted in his chest. It was the moment their lives irrevocably changed. Your memories serve you well, but they can also betray you, the voice hissed. Look closer. Just then, the radio crackled a faint, distorted message. Familiar laughter, Mia's laughter, echoed from the speakers, igniting a rush of longing and dread. Help me. Jake, panic spread like wildfire through him. Mia, where are you? He shouted, the shadows seeming to stretch with the reach of his voice. He felt completely unmoored and at the mercy of a much darker force. To save her, you must know the truth of your choices. Embrace what you have ignored. Confront the darkness that swells within. Heart pounding, he clutched the radio, its surface damp with myriads of pressed memories. The last wave of static fell away, and an image crystallized before him, a shadowy figure lurking at the corner of the studio, their face obscured but unmistakably familiar. Could it be her? Or was it the embodiment of his fears? Jake trembled, confusion and bravery colliding. What game was being played? What agony awaited him at the end of this twisted road? Time is ticking, Jake. Will you remain dormant, lost in despair, or will you take the plunge? The voice urged, the rhythm of urgency building. The air felt electric around him, pulsating with possibility and terror. Make your choice, and find your truth. As the figure stepped closer, the world around him began to tilt, darkness swirling into light. Everything fractured, leaving him teetering on the edge of revelation. Would he be able to face the figure, or would the truth shatter him entirely? With everything at stake, Jake braced himself, ready to confront whatever awaited him beyond the radio waves of his past. What horrors would unfold in that fleeting moment, and what would it cost him? With adrenaline surging, he took a deep breath, ready for one final grasp at fate. As the world around him twisted and warped, Jake felt a clarity wash over him, as if the shadows, once blinding, now revealed paths he never knew existed. The figure before him, a silhouette soaked in darkness, slowly transitioned into detail, the swirling darkness surrendering just enough light to unveil familiar features. It was her. Mia stood there, fear carved into every line of her countenance. Yet there was also a flicker of hope in her eyes. "Jake," she cried, her voice breaking like glass, "help me. You have to break the cycle." Panic surged in him, raw and wild. Every heartbeat pulsed with love and desperation. She was here, yet the shadows hung ominously around her, a noose tightening with each promise he had made. "What do I have to do?" he shouted, forcing his voice through the oppressive darkness. "How do I make this right?" The figure turned and pointed towards the radio, an anchor to his past, yet a vessel of ominous energies that pulsed against his skin. "You must control it. You can't let it control you." Mia's eyes shimmered with pleading urgency. "The choices you make are not just for you." Before she could finish, the voice of the station erupted again, sharp and unforgiving. "Your choices dictate the lives intertwined in this realm. You're not here alone, Jake. Do you see what you must sacrifice?" The shadows began to swirl, vibrating in response, relentless and unforgiving. Jake's anguish rippled through him as the reality of his sister's entrapment settled heavily in his chest. He looked back at the radiant glow of the radio. "I refuse to allow others to pay for my choices again." But the voice laughed, reverberating, "It's too late for that. You've already lost. Your heart weighs heavy with memories. The darkness hungers." In that moment, Jake felt a pang of steel resolve. "Then I will choose the sacrifice," he declared, finding strength in his vulnerability. "I won't let her be taken." The shadows howled, a desperate anger that shook the ground beneath him. The world started collapsing around him, threatening to consume him in a maw of despair. But amidst the chaos, he reached for the radio with all his might, heart racing. "Listen," he commanded, turning the knob sharply. "You don't own me or my choices. I'm ready to face the truth." The static hissed again, yet this time it felt alive, crackling with power. The laughter of the shadows transformed into their cries. Once alien, now felt like an echo of every choice he had made: regret, loss, love inextricably tied to his soul. "Mia, I will rescue you." In that moment, the vortex of shadows coalesced, spiraling into the radio, revealing a gateway of flickering light. The darkness foamed at its edges, but Jake felt its power shift within him. Together, he urged, and not just to Mia, but to all those trapped. As he looked back at the twisted echoes of their lives, he suddenly felt their spirits surrounding him. Every face was an embodiment of those he loved. Their whispered words, the prayers, and the cries summoned through memories filled him with purpose. Jake took a deep breath. "I choose the truth. I choose love." With a deafening roar, everything erupted. The light burst forth, illuminating the darkness, casting crumbled shadows back into the void. He lunged, breaking through, feeling Mia's warmth wrap around him. For the first time, she broke free from the chains that bound her, leaping toward the space between them. As they collided, a wave of energy surged through Jake, pulling him from despair into a tapestry where love conquered the shadows. He felt whole. The price had been paid, but a truth remained. He had to protect those dear to him. They gazed at one another, relief flooding his sister's eyes. Joy radiated between them. The air crackled, resonating with the finality of a journey that had vowed to swallow them whole. Together, he whispered, and as they found solace in that unity, they felt the weight of loss transform into strength. The echoes of those who had awaited freedom filled with hope. The radio fizzled behind them, the static word to silence, and the shadows quieted. And as they stepped forward, hand in hand, they knew the midnight station would no longer reign over their lives. Instead, it became a mere memory, a reminder of their strength in the face of darkness and the unbreakable bond of love. Jake turned back once, a smile blossoming on his lips. Together, we faced the light. With a burst, they surged forward, leaving the station empty, the darkness behind finally at peace. Don't let this journey be the end of your adventure. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss the next exclusive story. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. And flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. You need to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to make your voice heard. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.